Anubis is the Egyptian god of the dead. Or so we thought. For decades, Hollywood has shown us a snarling, jackal-headed beast emerging from ancient tombs, eyes glowing with malevolent power, ready to drag souls into eternal darkness. History books describe him as the grim lord of decay and death. But what if everything we learned about him is wrong? In the vast expanse of Egyptian mythology, where gods wielded cosmic authority and death was merely a doorway, one figure has been more misunderstood than any other. What if the very foundation of our understanding has been built on lies? This isn't a story about death, it's a story about protection, judgment, and a truth lost to time. Today, we're going to uncover what historians have been getting wrong for centuries about one of Egypt's most essential deities. Welcome to ancient Underworld, where gods fall, monsters rise, and devils whisper through the shadows of forgotten myths. If you enjoy exploring the dark side of mythology, like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another forgotten tale. To understand how we misread Anubis, we must travel back over 5,000 years to the very dawn of Egyptian civilization, when the pantheon was still taking shape. In those ancient days, long before Osiris became the celebrated ruler of the underworld, there was another who held absolute dominion over the realm of the dead. His name was Anubis, and he wasn't anyone's subordinate. He was the supreme authority over death and the afterlife. But how did we forget this crucial detail? But here's where the story gets fascinating. His parentage reveals everything about how history began rewriting his story. Some myths claim he was the son of Set and Nephthys, born from chaos and mourning. Others insist Osiris and Nephthys conceived him in secret, making him a forgotten bastard prince. Yet the oldest texts from the early dynastic period reveal something entirely different. Anubis emerged as an independent force, answering to no other god. Why have scholars chosen to ignore these earliest sources? The jackal symbolism tells the real story. We've been told jackals were scavengers, symbols of death, feeding on corpses. However, in the harsh Egyptian landscape, jackals were protectors of burial grounds, keeping away hyenas and other threats that would disturb the dead. The ancient Egyptians didn't see death when they looked at jackals. They saw guardianship. So why did modern interpretation get this backwards? This was Anubis in his truest form, not a servant of death, but its guardian. He was the first deity the Egyptians turned to when they needed protection for their deceased, long before the complex mythology of Osiris took hold. Yet this crucial detail has been overlooked for centuries. What's more, archaeological evidence from the earliest Egyptian settlements shows Anubis temples built not as places of fear, but as sanctuaries where families came to honor their dead and seek comfort during grief. The priests weren't performing dark rituals, they were offering solace and ensuring proper burial rites. Does this sound like the work of a terrifying death god? As Egyptian beliefs evolved into the intricate system we know today, so did Anubis's role. But here's where the misunderstanding began to take root. The moment of death in ancient Egypt was a terrifying transition. A soul, newly departed and disoriented, found itself in the unfamiliar realm of the Duat, who appeared to guide them through this journey. Anubis, not as a terrifying judge, but as a compassionate guide ensuring safe passage through the mysteries of the afterlife. Why would ancient Egyptians worship a god they feared? The famous weighing of the heart ceremony has been completely misrepresented in modern interpretations. We see Anubis as a cold arbiter, mechanically weighing hearts against Ma'at's feather of truth, ready to condemn souls to oblivion. Nevertheless, the reality documented in tomb paintings and papyrus texts was far more nuanced. How did we get it so wrong? In the Hall of Mayat, Anubis didn't preside as executioner. He served as guardian of the process itself, ensuring the scales remained balanced and the judgment pure. When a heart proved lighter than a feather, Anubis guided the soul to the eternal paradise of Aru. When it proved heavier, he ensured even the condemned were treated with dignity in their final moments. Does this sound like the behavior of a merciless judge? The terrifying Amit, the devourer of the dead, was never his ally or servant. She represented chaotic destruction, while Anubis embodied measured justice and sacred duty. They were opposites in the cosmic order, yet modern interpretations often portray them as working together, which completely contradicts Egyptian theology. Why do we keep making this fundamental error? In the mummification process, Anubis oversaw every step not as lord of decay, but as protector of the body's journey to eternity. Priests wore jackal masks during these rituals, invoking his presence to guide their sacred work. The god of embalming wasn't celebrating death, he was ensuring resurrection. What could be more life-affirming than that? Furthermore, ancient papyrus scrolls reveal prayers to Anubis asking for protection during life's difficult transitions. Mothers called upon him when children were born. Travelers sought his guidance on dangerous journeys. Farmers prayed to him during harvest time. His domain extended far beyond death into the realm of life's most vulnerable moments. If Anubis was truly fearsome, why would people invite him into their most precious moments? So, how did a protector become a monster in our collective consciousness? The answer lies in centuries of deliberate distortion. The transformation began with early Christian scholars who needed to demonize pagan deities to ease religious conversion. Anubis, with his animal head and association with death, became an easy target. Medieval texts began describing him as a demon rather than a protector. But was this transformation based on evidence or convenience? Hollywood completed the transformation. In films like The Mummy, Anubis appears as a snarling antagonist summoned by evil priests. Video games like Assassin's Creed cast him as a boss to defeat. Comic books align him with forces of chaos and destruction, making him an enemy of heroes. But how much research went into these portrayals? But here's the twist. Examine actual Egyptian religious texts and you'll find something remarkable. Papyrus scrolls from the Book of the Dead, tomb inscriptions at Saqqara, and temple walls at Abydos all show Anubis as a calm, dignified figure. His black skin represents the fertile soil of the Nile and the promise of rebirth, not decay. His ankh symbolizes life itself. There's no menace in his posture, no threat in his bearing. Why do these authentic sources contradict our modern assumptions? The disconnect is startling. Modern media shows us a monster, but ancient Egypt worshipped a guardian. We've been telling the story backwards for generations. How did we get so far from the truth? Even more revealing is how Egyptian children were taught about Anubis. Archaeological discoveries of teaching tablets and school papyrus show he was presented as a protective figure, someone who would watch over them if they were good and just. Parents didn't frighten children with stories of Anubis. They comforted them with his presence. What does this tell us about his true nature? Despite all this evidence, the misrepresentation persisted because it served a narrative purpose. A scary god of death sells more movie tickets than a compassionate guardian. Fear generates more interest than comfort. As a result, the real Anubis disappeared beneath layers of manufactured mythology. But at what cost to historical truth? The evidence for Anubis's true nature has been hiding in plain sight, overlooked by historians focused on more dramatic narratives. In the ancient city of Sinopolis, an entire civilization centered around Anubis worship. Archaeological evidence reveals this wasn't a death cult practicing dark rituals. Sinopolis was a center of learning and justice, where priests served as counselors, judges, and healers, embodying Anubis's principles of fair judgment and protection of the vulnerable. Would people build an entire city around a god they feared? The Egyptian Book of the Dead, more accurately translated as the Book of Coming Forth by Day, contains dozens of spells and prayers calling upon Anubis for protection and guidance. Spell 151 specifically asks Anubis to extend his protection over the deceased. Spell 125 calls him the one who judges with a fair heart. Not once is he portrayed as threatening or malevolent. How did scholars miss this overwhelming pattern? When Howard Carter opened Tutankhamun's tomb in 1922, he discovered a life-size statue of Anubis positioned not as a menacing guardian to frighten tomb robbers, but as a peaceful protector, lying watchfully over the young pharaoh's eternal rest. The Anubis shrine, crafted with exquisite care, showed a deity worthy of love and reverence, not fear. What message were the ancient craftsmen trying to send? His relationships with other gods in the pantheon further reveal his true nature. Anubis assisted Isis in reassembling Osiris after Set's brutal murder, worked alongside Thoth in the judgment of souls, and maintained crucial relationships with Horus and Ra. He wasn't an outsider or a dark force, he was integral to the cosmic order. Would evil gods be welcomed into such sacred partnerships? Additionally, recent discoveries at archaeological sites across Egypt have uncovered thousands of amulets and protective charms bearing Anubis's image. These weren't items of fear or dark magic, they were comfort objects, carried by ordinary people seeking protection and guidance in their daily lives. Why would people carry symbols of something they feared close to their hearts? These aren't isolated examples. From the pyramid texts of the Old Kingdom to the elaborate tomb decorations of the New Kingdom, Egyptian art consistently portrays Anubis as protector, guide, and guardian of justice. The pattern is unmistakable once you know what to look for. How did generations of scholars overlook such clear evidence? Today, something remarkable is happening. People worldwide are rediscovering the authentic Anubis and finding in him exactly what ancient Egyptians did thousands of years ago. Contemporary tattoo culture, jewelry design, and spiritual symbolism featuring Anubis aren't embracing darkness or death. People are drawn to him as a symbol of protection during life's difficult transitions. A guardian who ensures justice prevails even in the darkest moments. Goth culture and alternative spirituality see in Anubis not a monster, but a protector of outcasts and a guide through transformation. What draws modern people to ancient wisdom? Modern pagans and practitioners of Kemetic reconstruction understand what historians missed. Anubis represents the courage to face life's inevitable changes with dignity and the wisdom to seek truth even when it's uncomfortable. He embodies the sacred duty of helping others navigate their most challenging passages. Why do these practitioners feel such a strong connection to his energy? His image appears in fashion, art, and popular culture, not as a symbol of evil, but as a reminder that someone watches over us during our darkest hours. The jackal-headed god has found new life as a symbol of resilience, protection, and unwavering justice. How has this ancient symbol found such relevance in our modern world? Furthermore, psychological research into grief and trauma has revealed something fascinating. People who connect with Anubis imagery often report feeling less alone during difficult life transitions. They find comfort in the idea of a guardian who understands both death and rebirth, who judges fairly but compassionately. This is what history got wrong about Anubis. Centuries of scholars, filmmakers, and storytellers transformed Egypt's great protector into a predator, his role as guide into that of gatekeeper, his symbol of justice into an agent of fear. They took one of humanity's most beautiful concepts, that we're never alone in our darkest moments, and turned it into a monster story. But why did we allow this transformation to persist for so long? But the real Anubis endures. In every act of protection for the vulnerable, every moment of compassion for the grieving, every choice to stand for truth over convenience, his spirit lives on. He remains what he always was, not the Lord of Death, but the guardian of life's most sacred transitions. Isn't this exactly the kind of divine presence humanity has always needed? The next time someone mentions Anubis as a figure of fear, remember the ancient Egyptians who turned to him for comfort. Remember the priests who wore his mask not to terrify, but to heal. Remember the countless souls who found peace knowing he watched over their journey to whatever comes next. What would the ancient Egyptians think of how we've distorted their beloved protector? The next time you see Anubis in a movie, a game, or a book, remember what you've learned today. You're not looking at a monster, you're seeing one of humanity's oldest and most enduring symbols of protection and justice. What do you think? Are there other ancient deities that history has completely misrepresented? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more myth-busting revelations that challenge everything you thought you knew about the ancient world. If this exploration opened your eyes to the real Anubis, give us a thumbs up and share this video with someone who loves ancient mysteries. Until next time, stay curious and spellbound.